So what can you tell me about your audition process for the project? What was that like?
So there was no audition process. This
Oh,
film was offered to me, which, as you know, in acting world, that's a rare thing for that to happen. I had been offered two other Indian films prior, and my reps didn't know the infrastructure in India, so they didn't want me to do those films. So this one was offered to me, unbeknownst to me. My reps turned it down, and then the director contacted me on Facebook through social media and was like, "Hey, do you know that I offered you this movie?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea. You can send it to me directly." And I read the script, and it was so gorgeous, such a beautiful story that I was like, "I have to be a part of this." So there was no audition process. It just was literally uh, just a lovely gift.
that's amazing. I'm glad it all worked out.
It's like such a lesson because a lot of actors sort of like eschew social media. They don't want to do it. But I'm like, it's the quickest way to market yourself. And I've always been sort of like a self promoter in
Mhm.
a genuine way. And if I was not tied to my social media, I would have never gotten the message.
And then, of course, for fans who don't know, what's the film about?
I play a character named Reina, who's an American neurologist who goes to India to research her ideas about music therapy for the disabled. And she works at a disability institute and basically teaches them what her ideas are with relation to music. She sets up a whole music workshop for them and then a concert, which they have a goal to aspire to. And the message of the film is basically ability and disability. And a lot of films and filmmakers and a lot of the entertainment business is talking about inclusion and diversity and things like that. And this film employs over um, 80 people with disabilities.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that before.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely a unique thing, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of it because I'm like, this is unlikely that I'll get this sort of opportunity again. So, yeah, pretty special in that regard.
Definitely. What was your favorite part about shooting? Do you have like a fun fact or a favorite part that you filmed?
It's all a favorite because in a way, just going to India is a favorite because it's something I wanted to do and it came to me. And then I sort of got to experience India as my character did in a very eat, pray, love way. I mean, India is a very magical place that is undiscovered to a lot of Americans. I feel like India needs a good publicist because there's so many amazing things to learn. There's a lot of things that we adopt in our culture. I
Mhm.
mean, I went to India thinking, oh, everyone's going to be doing yoga, and that was not the case. So, yoga comes from a deep faith and religious practice first, meditation practice before
Mhm.
it became exercise in America. So, I wanted to do yoga all the time, and they were like, "Oh, okay, we can do that," but it wasn't like it was like in America.
This film is connected to the One Little Finger Foundation. Can you tell me more about that connection?
The film is obviously a film. It's going to become a learning tool for schools. In addition, oh, and that's our hope. But in addition, what ended up happening, it became a movement because, you know, anyone in your lifetime, in your life, in your personal life, just in your surrounding friends and family community can become disabled at any time. And I don't think that people realize that. So we've opened a discourse. And on top of that, and through the film, having so many people with disabilities that are in the film who had never acted before, they
Mhm.
learned a lot about themselves. So in the process of that, it became a movement and thus a foundation. So the foundation offers um, offers opportunities to those who are seeking them out, who want to do something like One Little Finger, or everyone has a dream, right? And I think people look at the disabled as charity, and it's not charity; it's a human rights issue. And once you change people's perspective on that and give them the acknowledgement that they deserve, just even having them see themselves on the screen is a major thing. Um, so within the foundation, we're giving people the opportunity to apply for aid and, what is it that you want to do? How can we help you attain those goals? So a lot of the people in the film who had never acted before, including Den, who is the lead character, who essentially is telling a bit of his own personal story that mirrors his life. He, before we started filming, was like, you know what, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. And the director really pushed him, is like, you can do it. And the hardest thing you can do as an actor is play yourself. It's very difficult through all the processes that he went through himself in his life.
Mhm.
going from being a nonverbal person to being a Calcutta's biggest disc jockey. Um, it enabled him to realize for himself that I can do these things, and thus now inspiring other people. Uh, we hope that the film sort of leads that message out into the world, and then people realize there's a place to go. You can contact the foundation and see if there's something they can do for you.
You have a social media following and you're very active on social media, like you mentioned. Did you get to use your social platforms a little bit to, I guess, promote the movie and raise awareness?
Yeah, basically almost every day now, especially since I'm doing press for it. I keep
Mhm.
trying to push the message out there. Um, yeah, anything I can do, I'm happy to be an advocate for it.
What has the fan reaction been like to the film so far? Have you received any positive messages on social?
Lots of positive messages on social. We've traveled the world with it. We had opened at the Cannes Film Festival. And the surprising thing that I didn't even know what the reaction would be, but the surprising thing and the most rewarding thing that happens when we do like a Q&A is parents of children or caretakers of people who are working with the disabled come up to me and they're like, thank you, because we feel like we've had this personal struggle that nobody cares about or nobody's talking about, and to see it on the screen and to be able to now say, oh, okay, other people are going through this as well, and there's a way around this, it's not a hindrance, there's something to be attained here. That was like such a great soul plug for me, that I'm like, wow, I had no idea that people were going to have that reaction, that they're like, I didn't realize that I could talk to other people about
Mhm.
this, because we literally show what it's like to live your daily life as a disabled person, just some of the challenges. And I've been doing a lot of press, and I'm like, my dad has Parkinson's now, and he is going in and out between using a walker or a wheelchair or whatnot. And you have to think about things that you've never thought about before. Like, it's shocking to see someone's body atrophy, and you're not really sure how to handle that for that
Mhm.
person. Their mind is all there and their body's sort of going against them, but you have to think on the regular, like, is there a ramp in this building? Where's the accessible areas for this person? That you didn't have to think about those things before, and this is something that somebody who has any one of those challenges has to deal with in their daily life, and I just don't think we don't think about it enough.
How long did it take to film the movie?
5 years.
Oh, wow. It's a long
It
time.
was it was. I mean, most movies do take a long time to
Mhm.
prep and then get made. This one had a number of challenges because in the beginning, the financiers who came on board were all for it, and then once they realized that we were actually going to champion and cast disabled actors in the film, they were like, no, they were not into it, and that was sort of shocking. They
Mhm.
didn't think it could be done. So they bailed, and they had to re-raise all the money and sort of shoot it. India shoots in a different shooting schedule than America does anyway, but
Wow.
it's kind of more spread out, which was it was good for me because I didn't want to live in India for 2 years, and be away from my family. So, but yeah, it was a challenge just to even get the pre-production phase going, and then to have the production and then post-production and then shooting in America and India with two different crews and making that sort of look the
Wow.
same. And so it was a lot goes into making a movie, and I feel like as a filmmaker or as an actor, anybody can be a content creator now, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. And I think more people are recognizing that it's so difficult to have the idea to make a movie than to actually make the movie, but then
Right.
to actually have the movie be made, finished, and be released is a feat in itself. So it's hard to be critical as a filmmaker sometimes. I mean, anybody can watch a movie and be like, this is this or that is that, and be critical, but they don't realize what it took to get to the screen, to get to that far, and
Yeah.
all the hoopla in between. So yeah, I mean, at this stage, now that it's traveled the world, we opened at the Cannes Film Festival. It's had a release, everybody can watch it, and the message can get out there. It's definitely a good place to be.
For sure. It's great you have unique insight from actually being a part of like the filmmaking process and in the movie as well. Then to go back to your social media, how did you get started as like an influencer or social media creator?
Okay, so that sort of happened by default. I've always been, like I said, a self promoter, but in a genuine way. Like, I'm a
Mhm.
networker. I keep in contact with everyone I've sort of ever met in the business. And because I am multifaceted, that used to not be a good thing by the standard of Hollywood. They were like, focus, do one thing, because they had to focus on one thing to understand you. Now you have to be what is called like a predator, a producer, writer, director, editor, content. You have to be everything in one to sort of get things made. So I was always doing that, but my social media blew up. I had like my recording artist arm, my filmmaker arm, my
Mhm.
acting arm, and those things each had their own fan base, but my social media actually blew up from being on a Disney show, and kids are loyal. I mean, Disney fans are loyal fans, and I was playing a villain, and they loved it. They loved to hate it, and followed me and antagonized me, and it was really fun. And from that, it just sort of blew up. And then I'm a big promoter of eco and sustainable fashion and products, and just myself, not like I was trying to do that.
Mhm.
So brands started contacting me, and when that happens, it starts as like a product exchange, and then eventually people want to pay you for
Mhm.
working with them. So I try to have integrity and only work with products and people that I would actually purchase myself and
That's great.
believe in.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it started just from sort of my social media blowing up, and then people recognizing that people were paying attention to me and engaging with me. And I was like, it's not something I necessarily wanted to happen. It did, and I thought, well, I can't really negate this because it was going on fire at
Mhm.
that point. So
It's definitely something like the way of like the world and the internet's going right now. So that's really amazing that you're able to, I guess, work with authentic brands and really be like engaging with your fans.
yeah, because if you think about it, there's no commercials anymore. I mean, people skip through commercials. So the way to get to the people and to the masses is through social media and
Mhm.
true, honest, like person to person engagement. And I think that's why it works.
I know you're also like a recording artist and you sing a lot of jazz and focus in that genre. What made you want to become a singer? Was that like what you did first before acting?
It was sort of all encompassing. When I was a kid, I watched a lot of old movies, and I think I thought, this is my new theory that I've had for myself, by the way, because I've been asked this question so much. But I think I thought that by watching those old films and the studio system, you had to be a triple threat. Like
Mhm.
you couldn't just be an actor or whatever. You had to take vocal classes and singing classes and all this horseback riding training, all those things. So I think as a kid, because what I was watching, I must have thought, oh, well, you're supposed to do everything. So
Mhm.
therefore, I just did. And my parents were very positive in letting me sort of explore all those areas. And I mean, I'm definitely glad for that. But and then just as a career, it was like, oh well, I can do that. So let's do this. Let's record an album. Let's do that. And it just sort of all happened at once. It's never been like I had one track and then I
Mhm.
went to the next track. They were always revolving, at the same time as I was doing it. So
That's great. I feel like that leaves so much room for opportunity when you're like versatile in so many different areas.
yes, like I said, now it does. But when I first came to Los Angeles, they were like, well, what are you? You have to pick. I'm like, well, why do I have to pick? Uh,
Mhm.
and then, of course, starting my own production company, I was like, well, I'll just do everything myself. And if they're not going to let me do everything, I'll just start making stuff myself. And now that is the norm, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
So
You said you started your own production company. What products do you work on for that?
I run all of my music through there, all of my acting through there, films, web serials, TV stuff, anything that I produce, and then branded content as well.
That's really great. And lastly, is there any advice you have for anyone who's wanting to maybe get on social media?
Just have to figure, what is that thing that you wake up in the morning and think about the most?
Mhm.
And if that's your joy, you just have to go for that. And by hook or by crook, make that happen for yourself. Just start making content and see what sticks. You like the audience doesn't lie. You'll see what people are responding to. And if you don't get traction right away, just keep doing it because eventually it's an algorithm on the internet. Eventually you will kick into gear and people will start seeing you. But also I think people think they could just make content and walk away and be like, oh, I want to be, some social media star or whatever. It doesn't work that way. You have to engage with other people. I'm very involved with social media and talking to other people on their accounts and liking things and whatever, but in a real way, not like just to get numbers. It's like you want to see what people in your own like hashtag group are
Mhm.
doing. So follow the hashtags that mean something to you, post, like, share, all that stuff, and it'll just naturally be organically grown.
Definitely, that's great advice. And where can fans watch you in one little finger?
Streaming on all platforms, Amazon, iTunes, Google, Vudu, wherever you stream your movies, it's there, except for Netflix. It's on every platform except for Netflix.
Perfect. And where can fans find you on social media and stay connected with you?
Sure. All my social media is at Tamela D'Amico, Tameladamico.